in order to make it happen, rather than actually aspire to something like that, in order to achieve that, if we actually did something every day to make peace happen. And that's what the prophets came to teach us, preach us. They lived peace. And I'm going to focus for the next 10 or so minutes about prophets and celebrating the prophets. Celebrating the prophet's birth. The word Milad means, one of the meanings is the actual birth. And then we Muslims take it as the birth of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But interestingly, one of the notable stories in the Holy Quran is the birth of Jesus Christ. There's a whole chapter named after Virgin Mary, and the Quran talks about, in great detail, about Angel Gabriel coming to Virgin Mary and inspiring her, telling her that she's going to give birth to Jesus, and then it goes on to talk about, it talks about the pregnancy pains, talks about how Jesus was delivered, all of that. And then at the end, Jesus himself says, وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيَّ يَوْمَ وُلِدْتُ, that peace be on the day that I was born. So the Holy Quran talks about the Milad of Jesus Christ, the birth of Jesus Christ. So, and the fact that he says that blessed is the day that I was born, and then he goes on to say that blessed is the day when I will leave, and the blessed is the day when I will be resurrected. And we all believe in resurrection of all of us on the day of judgment. And from that, so it's like his whole life is full of peace and full of blessing. And then we celebrate the blessed birth of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And what do we find common in between these two prophets, but all of the prophets? Because as we Muslims, we believe in all of the prophets. And if we didn't believe in any of the prophets, then that person is no longer Muslim. So we believe in Jesus Christ, Moses, Abraham, all of the previous prophets that came before Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Because they all came to, in a way, reconnect human beings with their Lord. To reforge the link between the Creator and the creation. And each prophet, although the key objective was to reconnect human beings with their Lord, but how do you do that? How do you create that link? And the link is created by reforming society, by enabling the society to love one another. Because every single human being is a creation of God, but also part of the family, is part of the family of God. And when you look after your neighbor, when you look after those family members, then the Creator, the Father of that family, is pleased with you. Now, I'm just going to mention a few examples from the life of Prophet Muhammad, that how, he, in order to create that, in order to reform his society, bring about that change in his society, it was all about serving other human beings, being good to others. So for instance, even when he started his message, the people in Mecca at that time, in Saudi Arabia, were very hostile to him. We talk about Islamophobia now, anti-Muslim hatred, and anti-Muslim sentiments now. Imagine what it would have been like more than 1400 years ago. That when Prophet Muhammad came with a completely new set of values, a new kind of reformist agenda. People were hostile to him at that time. But very interestingly, even when they didn't believe in him, when they didn't believe him as a prophet, they would entrust their assets, their gold, their wealth with him. In those days, there weren't any banks. There wasn't any deposit, kind of safe deposit that you can go and put your money in there. They would leave it with someone that they would know that he or she will return their trust, will return that money. So now, can you imagine the person, what kind of respect he would have had earned from his society? That you don't believe him as a prophet. You go around telling people not to go anywhere near him because he will change you. Now he will take you somewhere else. He will take you away from your society, from your faith in their views. But then you can't find anyone else more trustworthy in the same town, in the same village, in the same place than the person that you're warning people against. Than the person that you're warning people against, warning people not to go anywhere near him. That actually you trust him so much that you give all your valuable assets to him. Now, what does that really tell us? Because that people believed in the fact that he had the care of individuals at his heart. That whether you believe in him or not believe in him, he still cares about you. He has that sense of justice that Father was talking about earlier. That in order to bring about that peace, you have to have that sense of justice. That he would be just to you. That it's not that you will leave your money with him and he will say, well, I asked you to believe in my Lord and you don't believe in him, and as a result, off you go. And I'm not going to return your wealth back to you. I'm not going to return the gold that you gave it to me last week. It's having that sense of understanding that how do you create that trust? If we just pause here for a while, part of the issue that we have right now about this integration, that people are not integrated or people are less integrated in parts of Yorkshire than other parts, or parts of the country than other parts, perhaps is to do with that element of trust. That we think people are different. People are different. We're all different. There's never been a homogeneous society. But it's like when you trust each other, when you have that sense of justice that you can have, you trust them like you trust your own self. Then you stand up for them. Then you are same to them, to their face as well as behind their backs. I'm not talking about any particular community. I'm just talking about just generally as human beings. And in order to create that trust, one of the first things that needs to happen is that you're not afraid, you're not fearful of the other. Most of the time, we build up these bridges because we apprehend each other. And in order to create that bridge between people, between two individuals, the first thing you need to do is get rid of that fear that you have of the other. And the fear is created because of the unknown. When you spend time together, when you share bread together, when you come together, then we heard in the story of the Sultan of Egypt and the people of other faiths that came to live and spend some time with that Sultan. And what happened? Both of them realized, both of them saw the integrity in the values that they held together. And that is in a way perhaps where the focus needs to be. That never mind the bigger thing that we think about global change and global peace that we're going to bring about. It's about saying, can I reach out to my neighbor? Can I stretch out my hand of friendship to the neighbor that I have next door to me? Or maybe, and we Muslims believe that the neighbor means 40 people on your right and 40 houses on your left. And so one street is a neighbor to the other street, one city is a neighbor to the other city, one town is a neighbor to the other town, and one country is a neighbor to the other country. And as a result, it's a whole world, global, it's a neighbor, we're a neighbor to each other. Anyway, I digress. And coming back to the issue, so I'm talking about that. I'm going to talk and highlight some of the things that celebrate some of the qualities and characteristics of Prophet Muhammad. So one of them talked about how he had that kind of trust of his community, and secondly, that his message, in a way, really, when he preached people, brought people to his faith. It's very interesting that rather than he's a prophet of God, right? So he's been sent after, for Muslims after Jesus Christ. There's been like nearly 600 years of gap. Yeah? And the first thing that when he tells people isn't that he doesn't actually call people to God. He doesn't say to people, pray 5 times a day. That's what my faith is. You know what he talks about? He talks about human beings. And there's numerous examples that we have in our history, in Islamic history. But let me just give you a kind of one example, snapshot of that. So we know, most of you know, Muslims obviously know the Prophet started his message in Mecca. And the people of Mecca persecuted him, really were hostile to him and his community. Ultimately, he had to flee Mecca and go and take refuge, sanctuary in a neighboring town. Not neighboring town, sorry, to another city which was quite far from Mecca, known as Medina. And so we have, after 13 years of persecution, violence, and suffering, he is now going to settle himself in Medina. And this is the first time he's going to Medina. And there are some people who've already embraced Islam in Medina and have a kind of know about his faith. And so the people because obviously in those days it used to take such a long time to travel from one place to another place. And they've been waiting for him for weeks. The Prophet is coming, the Prophet is coming. And so it's first time he's going to address them. There's a huge gathering. The whole of, in those days, the people of Medina have come to welcome him. And so he's a prophet of God. Now you can imagine, what would he say the first thing? What would he say to them? He'll talk about, let's say, he might talk about that I'm a prophet of God. He might talk about God, who he is. He might talk about what Islam teaches. But interestingly, it's like, imagine like the king of a particular country is visiting another country, and the whole of the men and women of that country have come to welcome him. What's the message? What's the first thing that he's going to say to them? And he says to them, the first thing that he says to them is, Afshu salam, be peacemakers. And then he says, At'imut ta'am, feed each other. And then he says, and actually keep the ties of your families together. So keep your families together. Now the first thing that he says, he's suffered violence for 13 years in a particular, in his hometown. And you can imagine like how bitter one becomes when you're going through that, and when your whole community is going through that. And the first thing that he says when he goes to where he's going to establish his kingdom is that he says, be peacemakers. Spread peace to each other. And this is the message that I leave you with. That it's easier said than done. We all want peace. But we have to start from somewhere. And it's phenomenal that today we are all here together to not only actually to show our love and care for each other, but also that we are, by very fact that we are here, it's like saying that how important we feel, how much we believe in the fact that we have to show that kind of solidarity, because we all believe that, in a way, and the prophets that we believe in, we are all proud of our faiths, but also that all faiths, and in particular the Abrahamic faiths, talk about how Islam is about, in a way, I'm obviously mentioning about my faith, but other faiths have similar kind of statements, that Islam is about serving God and serving human beings. And may Lord enable us all to continue doing that. Thank you.